Hey guys, it's Zach back with another video, and today, because we didn't quite have any other devices I'm going to be putting up just yet due to time constraints and all sorts of other things, today we're keeping it pretty simple in terms of changes. The only change to the system thus far is we've got a Wheelock strobe up here, and here's why. Supposedly, Wheelock strobes are listed with Simplex to actually sync with the Simplex Smart Sync protocol. What I don't know is if it will also sync horns. So we're going to be testing first the strobe and then also the horns. Now, one thing I want to point out in the system is this down here. You'll notice that connection is all corroded, and here's why. These batteries have gone bad. They were pulled. They were already bad anyway. They're very hot, so I'm going to have to put the other ones back in because I knew the other ones were okay. And what I'll also have to do is I'll have to cut this connector off and crimp a new one on there, which is not a huge deal. At least it happened on the negative end, which is good because that means I don't have to deal with a fuse connector or anything. So if I need to replace the entire wire, I can do that too. Again, this is no fault of the panel itself, but yeah, no, we're in good stance here with the system. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so today we're going to do something a little different because we've already used, and I'm sorry, I was just testing things to make sure the programming was right. We've already tested all these pull stations. We will use one at some point, but I was thinking today we could try a manual evac. So like I mentioned before, the LCD is still a little goofy, but I mean, there's not too much we can do about that. So if we go into function here, manual evacuation. There's other things here. City disconnect, control point bypass, elevator bypass, door holder. All of these would have to be programmed. Okay, like lamp test. We can do a lamp test if you want to. You can see the issues where there's issues in the LCD. But, you know, fun stuff like that. Earth fault. Any user defined, which we don't have any. Display current date and time and a list. Okay, so in this case, we're going to do manual evac, and we're going to go ahead and turn it to on, enter, and it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? And we're going to say yes. So as soon as we do this, the horns and strobes will start. All right, now it's kind of hard to tell in the video. So the strobes, they are doing what they're supposed to do. They are pretty much in sync. There's like maybe the slightest bit of them being off. The video pronounces it a little more, but if you're actually standing here, they are, to the human eye, in sync. It's not perfect, but like I said, these are actually listed to work together, which is pretty interesting because it's not perfect. But it's close. It is very, 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 very close. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give this a system reset, because it's my understanding that you do need to do a system reset to turn off manual evac. So we can sit here for a minute, but here's what we're going to do. After the system resets, I'm going to put up the HSR, which is the Wheelock horn strobe, and we're going to put that up, and we're going to see what that does when we activate the alarm, when we hit silence, see if it lets us do audible silence. Now, at some point, too, and it's important to note, if these are syncing together, of course, Wheelock would sync with Wheelock, and Simplex would sync with Simplex. We already know that. The question I have is, what else will sync, and with what? These are things that we'd have to look at in the future. In fact, we might be able to take a look at a system sensor device up there, but I don't believe system sensors might sync with each other because of the way they start syncing on a random sync protocol. But I don't think that system sensor would ever sync with Simplex to any degree. But it is something we can take a look at if you guys are interested in that. For now, let's go ahead and, let's get out of that. I'm going to put that device up there, and I'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, now I have not tested this. This is going to be the first time testing this, me and you together. System is normal. We won't do a manual lead back this time. We'll just use the pull station that's right here. Device number 1. Let's go for it. Alrighty. Go ahead and do an alarm silence. Alright, so we have no audible silence, but the strobes are in sync. I do want to make that clear. Alright, we're done with that. So the strobes were in sync, but we do not get that ability to silence the Wheelock horn strobe here. So, and you notice too, the horns were off, and this is exactly what I was expecting. NC Alarms kind of explained this to me. He's working on a little project right now, and I won't go into too many details because it is his project, but he explained to me that he does know a little bit about the Simplex and Wheelock protocols, and it turns out they are very, very, very similar. But what it does is the Wheelock horn coding is actually inverse of that of Simplex, which means the horn for the Wheelock goes when the horn for the Simplex is not, and vice versa. So go ahead and initiate a reset here. So what's interesting about this is we are put in this position where, okay, so if we want to add a strobe and in sync and for much cheaper than what a Simplex strobe costs, we can put a Wheelock strobe up. We're able to do that, but we're not able to put a Wheelock horn strobe up. Now, because what you lose is that ability to have audible silence, which we've talked about this. Audible silence is not code anymore. So, I mean, can you do it? Technically, yes, but it's not code. In the firmware that this panel's running, I don't think I have an option to do smart sync and then silence horns and strobe on silence. And I don't know if Simplex has that programmed in any way yet. I would assume in order to do that, we'd actually need to get a Simplex programmer out here, which is something I do not have access to. So that's an important thing to keep note of is, there's no way for us to do that. And even then, code also states now that both horns and strobes do need to be in sync. If you can hear two horns in one place, first of all, they want them to sound the same. And second of all, they want them to be in sync with each other, which is important. So that's what code states. There is something else I was wanting to mention in this video, and it's not kind of coming to my mind right now. All right, here's one thing I wanted to mention. I do have these two new pull stations. These were sent to me to help kind of remedy the LCD issue here, which is great. This was very generous of them. One thing I do want to point out, though, they are addressable, but they are the older Simplex standard, which is MapNet. So you'll notice the backs here look very different from the newer IDNet styles. And without an adapter card, they won't work. So, I mean, I can get them to work. There's things I can do. It's just that we're not going to see them in use anytime soon. The MapNet standard, thanks to that water heater that just turned on, you guys know how much I love that. The MapNet standard is something that's kind of older. It's something slower. It's unfortunate that Simplex didn't build it right into their panels because Simplex is not simple. And even then, I believe, even if you have a MapNet panel, I don't think the newer IDNet stuff is backwards compatible to that standard. I could be wrong. I'm not a Simplex guru here, but it's not like Firelight or Notifier, where if you throw a Lightspeed device on an old clip style panel, that it'll just work. which is quite the downside and also contributes to why Simplex is so pricey. But for now, we'll add these up. Well, there's not quite room in that box. You guys, I've got alarms just kind of pouring out of my boxes here. Especially the Wheelock side of things, that's way overfilled. But yeah, so that is something I wanted to mention. I do want to get these batteries replaced, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't show you guys this module here in the last system test. I figured we'll just give it a short with the keys. Now this is something I can do, is I can always put one of those pull stations with this mini module here and make it do something. But if we give it a short out, there we go. So that'll keep going until the system's reset. We'll just see that sync one more time because it is kind of interesting. Yeah, see, pretty close there. Pretty close. There it goes. So, yeah, I would say, when it comes to Wheelock, putting that on with its strobes is fine, but, you know, anything else, it's just not going to sync up. It's not going to do what you want it to do. It's not ideal. So, I'll end the video with this. Wheelock and Simplex are common to see together, actually, especially where I'm from. I've explained this briefly, but you've seen it in a couple videos where Wheelock is just paired with Simplex, and you can see it on my Instagram too. I've talked about it before. Not uncommon in some areas, because they do. Simplex will sell you Wheelock equipment, but it's got to be all one or the other for the most part, unless you're doing like Wheelock strobes with Simplex horns or speakers for whatever reason. I don't know why you would ever do that, but you could. So guys, that's gonna end the video there. I'm gonna get that battery fixed tonight before I head back to the city. Otherwise we're gonna be stuck in a position where we got the panel going into trouble while I'm downtown at school. But guys, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video that's coming out later this week. And yeah, there you go. There's the answer to if Wheelock horns and strobes will sync. Strobes, yes. Horns, no.